This
setting that
conference
hook
will
is
now be recorded.
probably worthwhile.
Thanks, Dave. I guess looking back to the chair to maybe summarize, and sounds like I think it sounds like most everyone's on the same direction, going in the same direction with some sort of a letter that's available in red.
Are you there, Nate?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just looking at something real fast.
Jeff and Dave, this is Ann while he's looking at something. Is there a timeline, if assuming there is some sort of a remote DOT meeting on the 16th, would there be a deadline for compiling this letter that you would need, like if you wanted members to be able to review?
I don't. I mean, I'd like you to send us stuff and let us do it. We can certainly send it out to you. I think, a few days before and before the mayor reads it. But it'd be good just to get some raw material from you that could be put together.
Okay, so looking at the staff report, the recommendation, number 1, staff recommend TAC to discuss appropriate presentation for April 16th reception. From our last discussion, from our discussions, April 16th meeting looks like there will not be a dinner and very likely probably not a public comment period either, based on the last meeting that the ADOT board had on March 20th. So staff is recommending that TAC is recommending that FMPO staff put together a statement to the ADOT board, thanking them for current and future projects coming up in the region, and informing them of the City of Flagstaff tax that was passed in 2019 that has funding for West Route 66 for partnerships, and additional money that's unallocated for partnerships within the region or within the City of Flagstaff.
Nice job.
Yeah, well done, Mr. Chair.
Is everybody good with that recommendation?
Sounds good. I move to approve.
Okay, can I get a second? Or wait,
I'll second.
Was there any further discussion before we move to approve from Jeff or Dave?
Just like the clarification on when Jeff and Dave want the emails from the partners of projects.
What do you think, Dave? April 10th? Is this 7 days?
That should be sufficient, yeah.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? None. All right.
Before we move on, Mr. Chair, can we confirm who firsted and seconded? That was Rick Barrett first and Ann second, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Second bullet on general business, Metro Plan project criteria process update, and that is coming from Dave Wessel. You want to give us an update on that, Dave?
Let me unmute myself. There, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, we've cleaned up the matrix a little bit, and if you want to scroll down to that, so just a couple things to report on, some changes in the matrix, where we've just reorganized the columns a little bit that we think they make better sense and use the different color code. So Jeff, are you the one scrolling? There we go,
Right
stop there. Thank you. So none of the criteria have really changed. So you see regional importance on the first 4 columns. And then what we've done is created a new kind of super heading there called our action and need, and put planning and funding in that organizational category. And then you see the Metro Plan involvement has stayed the same. So we just think this makes it a little easier to read in terms of categorization. And then we've used just kind of a new color scheme that goes from the least important as a white color, moving through shades of blue into this bright red. And again, I think that makes it a little easier to read. And then the other thing to let you know, and I think most of you have received an email from me. I've got requesting that you fill out a spreadsheet and survey, and then get together with me for, I'm calling it an interview, but to start looking at your priorities. And so I've talked with John Wennis, and thank you, John, and I have a meeting scheduled with Nick Hall at the county. Nick is going to kind of collect comments from the various functions, operations, maintenance, and so on. And then for the city and ADOT, certainly the option is there for you to do the same. The way I have it, put it out in the invitation was, I'd like to meet with the capital group, like to meet with the operations and or maintenance group, depending how you're organized, because you're going to have different kind of different focus in each of those. And that includes planning as well, where we know, for instance, if the city's doing a small area plan or a specific plan for a neighborhood, there's oftentimes transportation issues that Metro Plan might need to support. So throughout the rest of this week, I'll be contacting you to get those meetings scheduled. I will point out one thing. I might squeeze in an extra question in the interview relative to long-term need, where I think the focus is really, what are you doing in the next 5 years? And I think as we were discussing this, and we look to projects like maybe the Lone Tree Traffic Interchange, some of you may recall, we looked at a connection of Schweitzer underneath the railroad south to John Wesley Powell. There may be some long-term projects of which you're aware that might be advantageous for Metro Plan to start developing and maturing as we move down the road. So that's really the update. I'll be reaching out to you later this week, early next week to get meetings scheduled, and hopefully before the April TAC meeting, we'll have have this complete, or if not complete, have a really good run at all of the regional priorities. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm ready for any questions.
Dave, this is Nate. Audra, John Winnis, and myself and Steve Oros, our traffic engineer, are meeting tomorrow to discuss our top priorities in the FMPO region. So hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be able to get your spreadsheet filled out and sent back over to you on ADOT's top priorities in the region.
Thank you, Nate. And I'll look to just follow up with you. Sounds like you're the point person on that. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll probably be the point person unless I say different in my email back to you.
Okay, that sounds good. And then again, I'll just remind you that if there are, again, some long-term concerns that you think Metro Plan might get involved in, if you could weigh in on those too, that'd be great.
And then just for your spreadsheet, regional impact is FMPO region. That's your definition of region, correct?
That's right. Thanks for
Okay.
the clarification.
Yep. Is there any more discussion or questions for Dave? Nope. All right. Let's move to the next item. The UPWP amendment, fare free transit planning. Dave, this is from you
Yes.
as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Unified Planning Work Program, we need to amend it to include a grant received by MetroPlan on behalf of Mountain Line. And this is during the upcoming construction season. Mountain Line is going to run fare free, and this grant is going to allow them to study the effects of that in detail. And in the staff report, you see some of the metrics that they're looking at, things like ridership and satisfaction, rider satisfaction and other things. So in order to authorize the use of these funds, we need to include it in the work program. If you want to scroll down a little bit, Jeff, you can people can see the amount of the grant. So it's 150,000 the federal funds with a local match of 37,500. So what we're looking for from the TAC today is a recommendation to the executive board to amend the work program.
Are there any questions or comments or discussion from the TAC?
Hi all, this is Ann. Dave, thanks for the recap, and we're getting geared up to go fare free for the summer, but as you know, right now we're actually doing that given the virus situation, and actually maybe working a few bugs out internally with this current situation. So we'll be ready to go or maybe we'll just be continuing fare free as we're into the summer. So
great. Thank you, Ann.
Any further discussion or questions? If not, is anybody willing to make a motion to recommend that staff amend the UPWP to include the Mountain Line 5305 grant for fare free study?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This
Go
is
ahead.
Andrew with NAU. Is there any concern about, with this being a study, how it will, the findings will inform or be utilized if the current situation with social distancing could negatively impact or skew that data if it continues on into the summer? And is that something that should be of a concern?
Andrew, this is Ann. That's a good question, and the planning team is, obviously everything is being dealt with more immediate concerns right now, but I'll bring that back to Kate Morley, just to, no, I mean, I don't believe anyone has thought through that level of obviously it's going to be part of all of our ridership, right? Across the board, not just the study. So, which is an industry-wide, not just Mountain Line will be dealing with changes of typical traffic patterns and ridership. So, it's a good question. I haven't heard any inkling that ADOT has changed their direction. I would think you guys would be hearing about that first on anything like this. So we're proceeding as if, as we were going to. So, Dave or Jeff, do you have any Because you guys are the
Yeah.
applicants and.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Ann and Andrew, I appreciate the comments are good questions and those answers just don't exist right now. What I would suggest is this is a TIP amendment and it needs to be done and approved so that Mountain Lion can make whatever decision they want to make that they're still able to make as things unfold. So I would request, and unless Dave sees it differently, I would request, adopting this so we can stay current and we keep our options open. I don't think there's any downside in adopting it, even if ultimately the project changes again.
I concur with that, Jeff. This is Dave, and yeah, I think Andrew raises a good point in terms of just kind of good study practice. Just to bring that to Mountain Lion's awareness that they're looking at a good baseline and know what the comparison, what the before and after is, so they get good results. And I think we've got time to hammer that out. So an adoption, recommended on the adoption of the work program amendment at this time is still appropriate.
Thank you all for the response.
All right.
Right.
Is there any more?
Mr.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a quick comment. I've been working with Sarah Allred, the transit program manager, regarding this mitigation study and the award, and she hasn't communicated anything that would indicate we have to put the brakes on or any kind of scheduling change in the last month or so. So it seems like going forward with the work plan amendment is prudent, and just go ahead until we hear otherwise.
Any other questions or discussion? Anybody wanting to make a motion to recommend that MPO staff update the UPWP to include the Mountain Line 5305 grant for fare-free study?
Yeah, this is John. I think we should I want to make a move to go ahead and follow through with the work plan amendment on adding the fare-free transit planning study using the FTA section 5305 for review and approval.
So you're making a motion? Is that what you're doing, John?
I'm making a motion, yes.
Okay. Does anybody second that motion?
This is Nick. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. All right. Sounds like that one passes.
Mr. Chairman, can I like to jump in? I noticed a few minutes ago, Dan Folk said he was talking and we couldn't hear him. And I just looked online and I can see that he's muted, but I don't see how to unmute him. Rosie, I think it might be on Dan's end, something with the configuration. Rosie, are you able to unmute Dan by any chance?
It shows him unmuted now.
Yeah, I can unmute him, but everybody, unless I mute everybody, everyone has the ability to mute or unmute themselves.
Okay.
It looks like he's unmuted now, so.
Oh.
Darn.
You with us, Dan? Okay, I'm not sure what else to do with that. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll put it back to you.
All right, sounds like our lucky day. I'm just kidding, Dan, if you can hear me. All right, next one is going to be
I didn't even get the joke.
Nate, I really appreciated that. This is Rick.
All right. So it's our lucky day because Dan's muted. Just kidding, Dan. All right. Bullet D, tip amendment for 4th and Lockett roundabout. Let's go to that real fast.
Mr. Chair, this is David Wessel. Thank you. Kind of similarly, this was a Highway Safety Improvement Program award that the city received in discussions with ADOT program management staff. It was determined that they're seeing design costs in particular for roundabouts has gone up, and so they strongly recommended that we increase the amount of funds, and it was determined that those funds were in fact available through the program. So we're recommending the amendment. You can see the kind of before and after. So there's both the increase in funds from $359,000 to $480,000 with a $30,000, which includes a $30,000 admin fee in local funds. And then you'll also notice that that design is being accelerated, albeit by only a few months, into fiscal year 20, which gives us a better chance of actually hitting the construction target of FY22. Those are the amendments that are being made. I'll defer to, I believe Jeff Bauman is on the line. I think I saw his name on the list, to see if Jeff wants to add anything. Otherwise, recommending that the TAC take action to recommend adoption of this TIP amendment.
Is there any discussion, questions, or comments?
This is Jeff Ballman. No, thank you, Dave. You covered all the details. We actually received our project establishment letter today, so this is moving right along. But thank you. The TIP amendment looks accurate, numbers and years.
Jeff Bowman, this is Ann. I just offline, if Mountain Line can connect with the city's project manager, just to kind of be involved with for input into the design process for transit. That's just separate to this discussion.
Sure. Well, of course, we'll do that.
Thank you. I have nothing, no comment about the TIP amendment.
This is Mark Hennig with ADOT-LPA. Everybody can hear me okay. I appreciate the opportunity to work with Jeff and FMPO on adjusting these cost estimates and initiating this project and connecting with our project management group at an earliest possible phase. And this was actually a result of some of our history of local projects where the planning level estimating for the cost, you select it early, and then a few years later we go to construction and there may be some challenges. And we were happy to have some dialogue with our project management group, who's recently gone through 3 or 4 roundabout projects, and just comparing those costs, we were successful to be able to secure the additional funding for design. Unfortunately, the construction element, though, is it's the estimate, and I believe Jeff can let me know if it's based on Schweitzer Canyon's original estimate. But unfortunately, the future year HSIP funding has all been allocated. Hopefully, things work out. But that's year or so down the road. Anyway, we were happy to get the additional funding from the HSIP group. So, thank you.
Mark, glad you could join us today and appreciate your help with the project.
Thank you, Dave.
Any other comments, questions, or discussion?
This is Rick. I'd just like to thank Jeff for all his work in finding a way to accelerate this item this year. I think that's very important work for the community, addressing a safety problem. Also want to thank ADOT for being willing to revise the estimates, and all the work that's gone into it just shows tremendous teamwork, and I want to thank everybody.
You're here.
I just wanted
Can you
to
hear me now?
knew this was my thumb. I was trying to be careful with the gesture to support that comment.
Can you guys hear me? This is Dan.
Dang it.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan.
Just to let you know, I could hear everything you were saying.
Uh-oh.
But I would agree, the meeting has gone much more smoothly with me on mute. So I'll go back on mute.
Dan, do you have any discussion you'd like to bring forth to TAC on the roundabout project for Forest, Lockett, and Cedar?
No, I supported the item.
Okay.
Thank
Anybody wanting to make a motion to adopt the amendment in the FMPO tip to change the Forest Street, Lockett, Cedar roundabout project, the funding from $359,258 to $480,000 for design, and move the design up to fiscal year 2020.
So moved.
I'll second.
Was that John?
Andrew.
Andrew seconded the motion. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that one passed as well. Moving right along. Next one is going to be, sorry, I'm having to scroll back up and it's taking me a little bit.
You're doing great.
Lone Tree traffic interchange from Dave.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple things to report. As you know, we're going to do kind of a pre-scoping study to see if this warrants, if studying the Lone Tree traffic interchange further is warranted. Part of that is looking at current and projected traffic volumes. I've put in a request to the ADOT modeling section and received a response that they'll get back to me hopefully by the end of this week with those numbers, at which point we'll start that assessment. And then there's some news from the city and ADOT on an IGA and related project assessment looking at the I-40 bridges over Lone Tree. And they're going to look at several options. And Rick Barrett, if you'll be kind enough, I'll ask you to speak to the options that the project assessment is going to look at, a little explanation as to why, and then maybe the schedule that they're on.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I'd be glad to. I think you did a great job of capturing what we talked about in the agenda here, or this item. But just to kind of go over that very quickly, in talking with ADOT, Brett Peterson and I worked with Brendan Foley, the assistant district engineer, or deputy, excuse me. The critical issue we're dealing with replacement to this bridge is going to be the depth of the girder or beam of the new bridge, and how much that is going to impact either I-40, would have to be pushed up, or to push Lone Tree down into a hole. So with that being one of the critical design elements, we talked through what 3 options we would explore in the project assessment. The project assessment affords us 3 options, no more, no less. So the $120K that the city paid ADOT to do this is again confined to those 3 options, and they are: 1, to lengthen the bridge in place, which is probably the most impactful to the traffic on I-40. The second option, again, lengthening the bridge in an offset location, which is adjacent to the existing bridges, but would require a permanent reconstruction of I-40 in an eastbound and westbound direction on either side of Lone Tree, which ends up being probably the most expensive option, which led us to the fun discussion of what would our third option be. The third option, we decided to take a look at what if we built the bridges in the location called for by the DCR, where we would put a traffic interchange. So this is not to actually redesign the interchange, but we would look at a diamond configuration where Lone Tree went under I-40, and build the bridges for I-40 in a location that supports a future traffic interchange. This has been an interesting analysis. What we're starting to recognize is that what we thought we could accomplish when we started this back when, which is why you do a PA, but we were hoping that we could combine our efforts with the Pavement Pres project. And what we're starting to realize is that there's little to no savings associated with the Pavement Pres project, primarily because the crossover we thought we were looking at previously is really off the table now, as the I-40 design, the Pavement Pres project commences or continues. So that's kind of like the big piece of this. The critical issue that I see is having modeling that helps us better understand if we put our money to replace the existing Lone Tree bridges at this number 3 option, which is to build the bridges associated with a future TI, I can't help but think, are we ever going to need to look back and replace the existing Lone Tree bridges? In other words, to put that question a different way, is are we going to have to widen existing Lone Tree to more than the 2 lanes that exist today? I think the answer has always been yes, but I'm wondering if we just don't want to reconfirm the modeling with this scenario. But with that, I'll shut up and open it up to questions. I'm sure there's many. At least I still have many questions.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Who do you want to have go?
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I was muted and I missed my chance to jump in there. Rick, thank you. I was hearing the options: lengthen in place, lengthen them, offset, or build the bridges in the location of the new DCR indicates. I love hearing that option, and I hadn't considered it before, and it makes really, there's a lot on it that makes really good sense. The question I have for you is, it sounded like as you ended your presentation, you were raising the question of do we really need to do both? I mean, even if we build the bridges at the new location of the DCR, are you saying, we might need to do the other ones too, where they currently are?
Yeah, that is what I'm questioning. Yes, you heard that correctly.
Okay. And that just makes me think,
if we're going to need to do both, because the TI isn't funded, and widening of Lone Tree as part of 419 has always assumed that the bridges would have to be lengthened under I-40. So what we're talking about isn't anything we hadn't previously considered. But in talking with ADOT, doing this project assessment, it was clear that, I mean, they kept asking us, are we sure we can't just live with existing Lone Tree and the bridges that are there today? And if you're going to spend money on bridges, why wouldn't you put them over here where the DCR said you were going to do a TI? And the answer to that question, as I remember it, is that even with the TI, we need 4 lanes on existing Lone Tree. And I guess the last part of my statement previously was, maybe I'm asking Dave to just help confirm that at this point in time.
Yeah, if there's nobody else, Mr. Chair, I'd like to chime in on a few things.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so I think as part of the look at the Lone Tree TI, we can examine the full picture there in terms of demands within the broader corridor. I think the things to look at from the old DCR and things that I recall that we hashed through was, can we phase the TI? And there seemed to be some challenges with phasing the TI, but maybe this gets at it. And it may have been, Rick, and this is something worth looking at, that the reason we need both is that when we were looking at like the traffic impact analysis for Juniper Point and its various iterations, the new Lone Tree and the TI were not going to be available. And so all of that traffic was going to be on existing Lone Tree. And that's what drove the need for those 4 lanes, because those 4 lanes were going to be called into action for an indefinite period of time. That may be the case, and it's worth looking at again. If we are able to build new Lone Tree and have, maybe just at a 2-lane section for the time being with enough room under the new bridges for 4 lanes, and so that we have in the interim, 2 lanes on old Lone Tree and 2 lanes on new Lone Tree, that may be sufficient for traffic. So that's really worth modeling, and I'm glad you guys are exploring that. So
excellent. Well, thank you.
Yeah, the other, and we'll be pleased to be part of that. The other question I have relative to structured depth over existing Lone Tree is, if we were going to have 4 lanes on Lone Tree, and you would have the possibility of making that a divided highway under I-40, couldn't you have center supports that might allow you to have a thinner structure and perhaps avoid having to, sink Lone Tree or raise I-40? And I'm getting very dangerously close to exposing myself as totally ignorant of bridge design. But it seems like there's an opportunity there, and I'm wondering if there's room in the PA to explore that.
Well, we probably need the PA people from ADOT. I doubt Nate can even speak to it. I'm just going to suggest that, yes, that's exactly what the PA is going to do for us, is just to help us understand all these details associated with, up till now, what's been, rough ideas, if not, 15%. I mean, I don't even think we have 15% design, right? We just have regional plan type estimates.
That's right.
So yeah, putting some specificity to all these concepts is awesome. And I'm proud to say I think we're going to advance the ball a little bit through this PA process. And It's now kind of spilling over into what's the TI look like, which I think the community's anxious to find out, and we're proud to be part of.
Great.
Rick, this is Anne. I have a quick question about the PA process. You're obviously focused on design criteria related to traffic modeling. Is there going to be a look at the differences of impacts to land use or zoning and meeting some of the community goals for housing and other issues as part of this PA, or does the city have any plans as part of this decision-making process for the type of bridge or where it is? Will that be part of the discussion and analysis?
No, Ann, sorry, this just isn't part of the project assessment process that ADOT's doing. I mean, really right now, what we're trying to figure out is project feasibility and, budget, going through a type size location analysis of a bridge structure is a big deal. Of course, we have a bridge on I-40, so even if you change grade on I-40 6 inches, you have to chase it east and west. So, I mean, everything we're doing is very engineering specific in terms of design and cost estimate. But I might ask that Nate correct me if I misspoke.
No, you're right, Rick. For project assessments, it's really focused in on a project-specific design criteria, looking at some options for a specific design. It doesn't look at an overview of...
Yeah, this is Dave. I would... Yeah, Mr. Chair. And I think another point is, we are looking at a relatively narrow or short section of Lone Tree, if you will. Especially if you're looking at the existing bridges, that's just a short span between, I-40, the eastbound and westbound. I would think, and it's really ADOT's process with city funding, but if you find that you've got two alternatives of similar value and cost, there may be some defining aspects, and one might be, and I think this is a conversation to have down the line or think about having, is this whole issue of secondary access that has been troubling for Juniper Point and other projects, that if we now have new Lone Tree and existing Lone Tree and we've solved that problem because the project assessment says new Lone Tree is feasible, that could be part of the mix in terms of decision criteria if one's to be made at that time. So I just offer that as a possibility, should it come down to that.
And this is Rick. I'll tag on. I mean, Ann asked a great question. Of course, Juniper Point is a specific plan that's part of the city's regional plan. So I think that does help us understand its impacts to land use. And the biggest hurdle that Juniper Point faced and still faces, even under new ownership, is it has to have secondary access before it can go beyond 30 units. The 30 unit criteria comes from the fire department's latest adoption of International Fire Code. So that number may sound different to some of you, but right now that 310 acres is locked down at only 30 units, maybe more. Dan might want to correct me. But you get the gist. The secondary access, which is either John Wesley Powell out the east end or something that punches across I-40 to connect to the city's network there, is a fundamental improvement to open up land use.
Thank you. I just wanted to make that tie back. I know that. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, that's all I have on this topic.
Okay. Any other discussions or questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Jeff, and I first have to acknowledge there's a carpenter at my house, and I might have to mute because of the noise. So I apologize for that. But I guess what I want to say is it seems to me, since we don't know exactly how Lone Tree TI is going to play out, I mean, ideally, I'd like to see us widen both. I'd like to see us be prepared for the Lone Tree TI in the future and the widening of the bridges for Lone Tree as it currently exists now. And I realize that's a huge amount of money that probably isn't budgeted, but I would be concerned about we build the new Lone Tree TI bridges and widen them, and then we don't have the money to build the TI for a long time. And we end up needing what Rick says. I mean, we need it on the existing TI or existing Lone Tree, or vice versa. And I mean, I just like to build both of them, so I'll leave it at that.
But Jeff, thank you for having the discussion. Would you agree that maybe if Dave and I can work on some of the modeling, it might help us better understand the scenario you're referencing and that I brought up?
Yeah, I would love that. And the other thing I want to throw out there is this got on the agenda a couple months ago with the idea of, that hasn't gone anywhere yet, but just the concept of, instead of a diamond that needs a $120 or $50 million project, maybe just having 3 legs of a diamond that cost less. And that,
right.
Yeah, and that would require the existing Lone Tree to be 4-lane for sure.
Yes. Yes. Yep, that's the dilemma. That's one step at a time.
Thanks.
Any other discussion on this item? Well, you guys, our Metro Plan is not asking for a recommendation, but it sounds like through the discussion, Rick and Dave are going to work on the modeling to better inform the PA on which direction to go.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, on to the next item, unless anybody else has anything to add. The next item is FY 2021-2025 draft tip tables. And Dave, this is yours as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just keeping the tip development on track. I want to thank everybody for sending in their draft capital improvement programs. ADOT has posted their tentative 5-year construction program. And so I was able to include that in the tables that have been circulated. I believe I gotten comments back from the county, and want to thank Nick, and then Nate from ADOT has sent comments in, and so we'll start incorporating any changes that we receive. We had our call for projects. Well, maybe back up a little bit. We've also received Mountain Lines update. I think we were looking for some feedback from the City of Flagstaff to make sure that we've captured those things accurately. Some of the questions, and we don't need to walk through the details today, but we can look at the tables briefly. One of the things that we need to report on is monies that have actually been obligated or spent in the current fiscal year. And so just want to confirm that. That was particularly true for ADOT, which in their 5-year construction program, they don't report those current year figures. And so just wanted to confirm that, and I think Nate has done that for us. Nate, I will bring this to your attention. on the I-17 pavement preservation project for $35 million or $35.9 million. They have that located in Yavapai County. That's the reason I couldn't find it and brought it to your attention.
Gotcha.
So, I'll put that in your ball court to see if they can clean that up. As far as our STBG program is concerned, for the time being, we're presenting that as general planning administration, such as we have for the last couple of years. And then I guess I'll look to Rosie. We did go out for our call for projects and posted that in the paper, ran it on their banner for online, and then also posted it on our website. I don't believe we received any call for projects. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so since it's kind of late breaking news in terms of compiling all this, I really haven't had the opportunity to go through these and see if there are chances for coordination, which is one of the things that we can do, or if there's chances for cooperation or partnership. There have been times, we just finished talking about the Lone Tree bridges, and that's a similar situation or a good example of potential coordination where, ADOT was being involved in the pavement preservation project. The city had an upcoming capital project. Could we coordinate those? Didn't pan out quite like we expected. But that's the kind of thing we want to look for. And so, yeah, I'll just leave it at that point and see if anybody has any questions or comments about the tables as they've been submitted without actually walking through them one by one.
Dave, this is Nate. The only comment that I really have in terms of coordination is one of the big ones I saw was we're redoing the JW Powell. Let's see, is that Lone Tree? I think it's JW Powell, the airport interchange. Not interchange,
Yeah.
but the bridge going over I-17 there. And I believe that was identified in one of Martin's Foots Trail plans as wanting a Foots Trail crossing at that location.
Okay, that's a great point, and the city certainly has some money in the Foots program, and I'm not sure. I think we can have that conversation. Rick is obviously on the line about whether there's a chance for spending some money to maybe invest, because I know you guys are, even under those rehab projects, have the ability to do some minor expansion and could possibly accommodate a Foots Trail.
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
Nick?
it's a possibility. I don't know if they've had a project kickoff for that or not yet, but it would be something that would be good to, for the city or MPO, whoever has the funds to do that, to reach out to Brendan to try to get as part of the project. So IGAs can get started and things of that nature.
And this is Rick. Does that boil down to widening of the bridge structure somehow? I mean, is that what you're saying?
So if a Foots Trail is wanted on the overpass structure, then yes, it would require a widening of that structure. ADOT's current plan, I think, is a deck replacement with probably some superstructure work as well.
It sounds like an opportunity we ought to at least look into.
Definitely an opportunity.
I know we're moving forward with the Sheep Crossing, which people are excited about being able to get under the interstate and not use what they call the dangerous bridge over I-17. Ponderosa Trails getting over to Fort Tuthill is a common movement at that part of town. But actually it's closer to use the sheep crossing to get to Fort Tuthill than to go out of your way, even if the bridge was widened and safer. But I'm sure the redundancy is something Martin would be interested in.
Yeah, this is Dave, and eventually, you know, John Wesley Powell, the airport connection is going to be done, and that'll give a direct route from other parts of town to Fort Tuthill if that bridge is improved. So, yeah, it's definitely an opportunity for the league to explore. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, man.
Well, it looks like there was something done in fiscal year 2020. I don't know what it was. There was funding set aside then. And fiscal year 2021 is when it looks like they have all of the designs set for that one. And then fiscal year 2023 is when they have construction set for that project.
Okay. All right, that's all I have for the TIP update at this time.
Any other discussion on the TIP update? No discussion? All right, then let's move to the next topic. And I believe it's items from the executive director. Yep, items from the executive director.
That's some fine carpentry in the background there, Jeff.
Yeah. So let me just say thank you, Mr. Chairman, and everybody for coming to the meeting. You know, if not for the world circumstance out there now, I would say this is incredibly unprofessional of me. A cat almost just jumped up in my lap. I've got a carpenter going in the background. I might need to, you know, stop at any time and go tell him to stop working if it starts getting noisy. So I know we're all, you know, dealing with this new situation, and I will jump into what I have. Really, from the executive director, that was about it. I would like to do item number H, which is review the draft executive board agenda. I guess I would only say that the management committee of Metro Plan is meeting tomorrow at 9 in the morning, and they're going to look at the items on the TAC. Pretty much, they usually don't get, you know, very involved in these discussions, but it is opportunity to, you know, share some of the key points that you want to get to the city manager and the county manager and the NAPE to CEO and A.DE. However, when I go to the executive board agenda and I'm scrolling down it on the screen, you can see we're going to ask them to approve the things that you just did on the TIP and the UPWP. And there's an amendment to the master IGA. Ann knows we've been working on this for over a year to get NAPE on the executive board, and it has been signed. So by both the city and the county. So NAPE or Metro Plan will be given the opportunity to endorse it as well, and welcome Steve Peru to the board, to the Metro Plan board representing Mountain Line. And I'll pause after each point just for a bit and see if anybody wants to jump in. Item B, resolutions to adopt the Arizona State Retirement System and Social Security coverage. This is technical administratively, has nothing to do with transportation. The whole point is to ensure that Metro Plan employees get all the benefits of every other employee who's local government, which is ASRS and Social Security. And there's a whole lot of wrinkles and background on this that I don't think it's worth going into unless somebody in the room wants me to go deeper on this, and I'll pause to see if there is anyone.
Yeah, it's under shared drive or shared with me.
I can't hear that. Is someone talking to me? All right, I'm guessing that was background noise then. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to keep going. Financial services notice to the city manager and county manager. Again, it's part of this transition. John Wennis is on the call. Been working with him and his team for a long time now. And we have a letter that goes to the city manager saying, thank you for all the service you've provided. And as of July 1, we're going to be taking care of things on our own. And then we have a letter to ADOT saying officially we want to accept this responsibility. So it's a formal, it's really formalizing and documenting this transition administratively that we've been working on for a long time. Again, if anyone wants me to go deeper, please ask. Okay, transition IGA with the city of Flagstaff. This memorializes some agreements of the transition, how money is going to flow, how employees are going to flow. There's, as you can imagine, a lot of administrative details, and this IGA is being worked out now. We're hoping to bring it to the city of Flagstaff in April 21st and have the board consider it at their at the Metro Plan board at our May meeting. Any comments on that? Okay, then item E is an IGA with Mountain Line for personnel services. And the idea here is Mountain Line provides Metro Plan as employees on loan. And that's a way for Metro Plan employees to maintain ASRS and Social Security coverage. So essentially, we are approaching maintaining ASRS and SSI from 3 fronts, and one of them is going to work. And it's kind of just really, it's making sure we keep all of our options open because we're 3 months before 90 days or so till the transition happens. So we're being very thorough. Anything on that? I'll go to the legislative update. A lot happened legislatively. There was a request to Representative Thorpe from Councilmember Odegaard and others, but officially from Councilmember Odegaard for $5 million for 4th Street widening. And since the COVID-19, really everything's on hold. They're getting a budget through to keep things running, but the transportation agenda, like many others, has really just been sidetracked. So I don't have a crystal ball to know what might happen there. And I don't have much more to share, but again, if anybody wants to open it up, let me know. Transportation board dinner, we already talked about. And then Dave's going to do his project prioritization update for the board as well. And that's really it. We're not going to do an executive session. There's too many other things to work on than that item. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I turn it back to you.
And this is Dave. Mr. Chair, I'd maybe direct you to open up the chat box up there where it says number of people, number 12, or with the number 12 by it. I see that Ann's got a comment on the 5310 table from an earlier item on the tip, and Dan Folk has a question about the IGA's moving Metro Plan to independence.
Okay, let's start off with the one from Dan, since we're on that agenda right now. How are the IGAs moving Metro Plan to independence? Would be Dan's question. Could you answer that, Jeff? Thanks, Dave, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. How are the IGAs moving Metro Plan to independence? Well, there's 3 of them going, and Metro Plan has the financial aspects coming over, where we're going to be managing the money and the grants and paying the bills. It just might be that one of those bills that we pay is to the city of Flagstaff or to Mountain Line, for providing payroll services to us. So it's, I mean, that's really the key point. Are there other questions, Dan? And I see that Dan is typing this in a text box, so I'll wait for a second.
Dan's asking, is ADOT taking over the services City of Flagstaff was providing?
No, not at all. MetroPlan was providing all of those things in the relationship with ADOT and the grant management. We're looking at a IGA potentially, as I said, for employees on loan for the purpose of benefits.
Does that answer your questions, Dan?
Great. All right. I think I was done. Dave, Dave, you brought that up. Thanks for pointing out that Dan had those questions. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and you had a question earlier, or you had a comment on the chat earlier. Dave Rose, I have one minor clarification for tip about 5310 table, the WebEx window closed. I could not unmute. Are you there?
Yes, I'm back. I just somehow I lost the visual of the WebEx, but I could hear you and I couldn't get to my unmute button. So it's a very minor, and I could email these, Dave, but and these were from Kate. It sounded like the 5310 table shown looked good, and it was from the coordinated plan, but I think she had like 2 clarifications. One was the mobility management application is every other year. However, it awards 2 years of funding. And so I think she's asking to make sure that the FY 2021 value is correct. They submitted a flat ask of $112,500 for FY 2021. And not being able to see the table right now, that's the one question. And the next one, or comment, the next one is the ADA plus year, 2-year grant request is $231,886 at 50-50 split. And I can email you those separately.
Do that before, and thank you. And check with Estella. She did send me some numbers, and I should have mentioned that. She sent me some numbers on the 5310 program. I'll double check them with the ones you just gave me. But you check with Estella as well. I may already have those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going on to the next item in the agenda then, item number 4, closing business. Item 4A, items from the board. I have one thing. The McCollum Drive project is starting back up again, the bridge deck replacement project and all-side sidewalk. Because of the regional reduction in traffic, because of all the regional closures, we're looking at an NAU closing. We're looking at closing McConnell Drive earlier than what our contract allows our contractor. So we're working right now with FUSD and NAU to make sure they don't have any big concerns about that. We're looking at closing McConnell Drive April 13th. So the contractor can work days and be more productive and hopefully get out of here sooner.
That's good news. There's a little silver lining from all of this.
Yeah. Yep. That's the only thing I have.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead, Rick.
Well, thank you. I wanted to thank ADOT in regard to working out in front of City Hall on Route 66 and the ability to close half of Route 66, basically for all the same reasons Nate just mentioned. We tried to time it over spring break as well. We got hammered with some weather, but all's going well, and we really appreciate the ability to do some open trenching during the day on Route 66. So thank you, ADOT.
Yeah, and Eagle Mountain's working great out there. They're doing a good job.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just a little factoid along those same lines. INRIX collects data. It's the data provider that gives you the time in minutes on the interstates from point to point. They said you'd never see anything close to a 5% decrease in traffic, but at a certain point earlier this month, there was a 5% drop, and then followed soon after by a 30% drop in traffic nationwide. So just to give you guys a order of magnitude for what's happening with the COVID-19, 30% reduction in mobility. I actually thought it might be higher, but 30% is pretty stunning nonetheless.
Yep.
Wow.
Amazing.
And Mr.
All
Chair,
right.
I would add, COVID-19, I'm hoping our next TAC meeting can be done in person. However, I would ask, hearing Nate start the meeting, I have similar concerns working remotely with a go-to-meeting format. Just a request. I can appreciate go-to-meeting may be exactly what MetroPlan wants to stick with, but I'm wondering if we could shift to Microsoft Teams. I think the meeting could be more effective for all of us. But just wondering what the rest of the TAC might think about that. I don't know where Coconino County is. I don't know where NAU is. I don't know. I mean, this is just a really interesting combination of all the agencies that's brought together. I'm sure Mountain Line's experiencing the same thing, but trying to find something that works for all of us. Hopefully there's a sweet spot in there.
I was able to get GoToMeetings to work. I had switched to my laptop from my desktop, so.
Okay.
I had different
And
permissions
Rick,
on my laptop.
an interesting, challenge with this meeting is that it's a public open meeting as well. So then you have to figure out a technology that's can be open line. That's another aspect.
Oh, good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we could have had a lot of people online. We wouldn't have known it.
I think
Right.
that, then for next month, I'll get the GoToMeeting software and I'll be better prepared. So my apologies this time, but again, hopefully we can meet in person, but if not, I'll be prepared with GoTo next month.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to respond to that. I really appreciate the comment, and I think we need to be, as a planning organization, we need to be prepared for what might happen. And I want to ask Rosie, is there a reason that we can't kind of do a survey, if not right now, but of the organizations, just to confirm what their preferred formats are? And if GoToMeeting is the odd one out, is there any reason we can't just switch to the most popular platform?
This is Rosie. I don't see why not. We can send out a quick survey and see what works. I was going to ask everyone to send me notes of what you think worked well and what we need to do better with this web meeting, because it is the first time we've done this. So hearing that other options might be better, that would be helpful. We are exploring different options for a long-term option. Oh, excuse my noisy dog begging for chicken. So GoToMeeting seemed easy to use. Stop it.
Bring your pet to work day.
And Down boy.
And there's a message here, Joe Galley. I guess he can't speak, right? We can't hear him, but he in the chat box, he said that he likes the GoToMeeting format. So we'll figure it out.
But what I will
Awesome.
comment is that GoToMeeting and Zoom and some others should all have options where you don't have to download the software. And I will say that GoToMeeting was easily downloaded to my city laptop without any issues. And I know GoToMeeting also does something where you can run it in your Google Chrome browser. And I think Zoom does something similar. So A download is not a mandatory thing, and you can also download the app too on all of the platforms. I haven't explored Teams for this kind of a meeting, and I don't know how that would work with people outside different networks, but I'll look into that one and send out a survey.
Yeah, thank you. Like, this is all new to all of us, right? I mean, I've never known there were so many different options to have a non-in-person meeting, and here we are.
So, Rosie, and I guess while we're on this topic, and I think it is germane, regardless of platform, let's, when we do select a platform, let's work up some directions for the chair. I know some platforms, have the opportunity to raise your hand virtually. So the chair can be aware that there's somebody waiting to speak. That way people aren't all chiming in on top of each other. And they don't have to, go around the phone, so to speak, calling on each person individually. And so however the platform accommodates that, let's just come up with some virtual rules or for rules for managing a virtual meeting that might things go well. I think it went really well today. So kudos to Rosie for getting this set up and to Nate for managing it so well.
Here, here.
Yeah, second that. It worked pretty well.
Yeah, everybody did great. Thank you. So any more discussion from items from the board? No? Then I am going to, let's go to the next one, to adjourn meeting.
Thanks,
So
Nate.
moved.
Thanks all.
Thank you all.
Sounds good. Stay
Appreciate
safe.
it.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, you too. See ya.
I'm going to stay in here if anybody wants to stay in and talk.
Well, then I guess I'll hang on for a little bit.
Looks like Mark. I can't see
Who's
who else
left?
is here. Okay. Nate and then ES. Yeah, I don't know why I can't scroll down. I'm gonna drop my screen. Can you take me off of screen, presenter, Rosie?
Yeah. Give me a second while I figure it out.
Okay. So it's just the three of us and Nate at this point?
I think Nate was calling in by phone by his,
Oh, that's right.
as well as his GoToMeeting hookup. All right, now
So
I
can
can,
you-
I
everybody.
can kick him out. Should I kick him out?
Yeah, kick him out.
He's gone. So my phone dropped off, so I didn't hear everything you said. I saw your mouth moving. I was like, why can't I hear anything? So it sounded like you were agreeing with me, your last comment, Dave,
About what?
about the different meeting options.
No, what I was saying is let's have some rules for the chair that help them run a virtual meeting. So like here, having the chat, if we could have directed people to say, if you have a comment, say, comment in the chat, that way the chair could see and call on people. So it's not everybody chiming in at once and talking over each other. It didn't happen too much in this meeting. It really went pretty well. But I was on a Zoom meeting where it had an option to raise your hand, for instance. So that way the organizer knew to call on you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I did make a couple other notes, like when people made motions, I didn't necessarily know who was talking. So one of the rules is that the chair needs to repeat it and the person should be saying who they are when they're talking.
Yeah, well, again, you might look at the platforms. I think it was Zoom that it was, if you had the list up, it would flash. If you were talking, it must have been voice activated. It was flashing the name of the person talking. So yeah, there's some advantages and disadvantages, I guess, to the different platforms.
Yeah, and I think, Rosie, you're welcome to, and if I think of it, I will as well, but if you're taking minutes and you're not sure who made and seconded the motions, just say, Mr. Chairman,
Right.
you know, is it this step? And we'll get it.
Right. Which I did, because I had no idea who talked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, in some of the cases. And we can look at Zoom. Maybe we can do our Monday morning meeting on Zoom instead of GoToMeeting. The reason I decided not to go with Zoom is, well, I wanted to try it before committing to anything, and Zoom only allows you a 40-minute meeting before you have to upgrade.
Right.
And is the upgrade a fee?
Yeah, which is fine long term, but for trial purposes, I wasn't happy with that. So,
Yeah.
But I think we can try it for us and see how it works for our meeting. Log out and log back in kind of thing. Jeff, are you there still?
Yeah, I'm still here. I just turned off my camera because I'm walking around my house trying to find another quiet space.
And then I have dogs over here. I don't know what they're begging me for. They've been bugging me for the last half hour. Come here.
All right. Are there any other follow-ups for us after this meeting? Hey, Pooch.
Come here.
I think we're in good shape for the executive board. Do you want me to update the TAC and management committee stuff for the TIP and the work program? Are you going to do that?
Me?
I guess I'm talking to whomever. So we're going to have the management committee tomorrow, and then we need to pump into the relevant staff reports what they had to say. So that would be the really the TIP and work program amendments.
I would like whoever's staff report it is to put in the comments of the TAC and the management committee after the management committee is over.
Got it.
And if you want to go into the staff report now and add what the TAC said, and then tomorrow add what the management committee said, but we won't send anything out until both are there. We turn it into PDF. Does that work?
That works, right?
Okay. Appreciate the question. The Lone Tree, really small detail, the Lone Tree staff